if you wanted to get into a business back in the 1950s,
even earlier,
or even
earlier,
yeah. So we'll let you do it.
Well,
have at it.
And it's not just car transports. There's ships and there's airplanes that transport too.
Of course.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll get started here with this. I'm going to let it roll. Alongside the automotive industry came the automotive transport industry. Railroads were a primary means of transportation for moving vehicles across long distances. However, it wasn't the best option because it was slow and costly. Over the years, there have been some significant developments from the very first semi-truck in 1897 right through the automated auto transport system available today. Growing number of new cars meant that the automobile manufacturers needed to find a way of efficiently delivering them to customers. Driving their vehicles long distances wasn't the practical way to do it. The solution, Mike, involved loading cars on the top of a flat cart that was attached to the top of an engine. The flat cart was attached to the back of a modified truck, and hence the world's first semi-truck was born. One such manufacturer was able to design a trailer that pulled a 2-ton truck. It was able to haul 4 cars at a time, which was groundbreaking for the transport industry at the time. One of the first folks to develop a transport was Ransom Olds in 1901. That's for you, brother.
Yep.
Okay, on the rail side of it, during the 40s and 50s, many railroads were transporting cars across long distances using automobile loading assemblies that allowed them to fit as many cars as possible into a boxcar. However, it wasn't too successful, and it was very, very expensive to do. So toward the end of the 50s, cars were being transported mostly by rail and were shipped on highway auto carriers and could be transported 10 cars at a time, basically. So on the air side of it, up until the late 40s, air transport's being used for transporting people and goods mainly. However, the demand quickly increased, transporting cars across the pond, so to speak. Air transport companies started transporting vehicles as far back as the 40s and early 50s. On the ship side of it, and this is where it gets kind of interesting too, during the early 60s, cargo ships also played a part of the vehicle transport. They were very successful at the time, but they couldn't carry a large number of cars at that time. However, something better was needed by the U.S. military. The U.S. military contracted with the Sun Shipbuilding and Dry Dock Company in Chester, Pennsylvania, to design a new type of motorized vehicle.
To try and get their ship together.
Yeah. A carrier that was purely for transporting cars across the ocean was invented in 1973 by K-Line in Japan. It was named the European Highway and could carry up to 4,200 vehicles. Now, thanks to technology, we can now do things quicker, more efficiently, and cheaper than ever before. Auto transport industry has been so slow, or it hasn't been slow in making most of the technology. In many ways, the innovation at the core was the auto transport industry that you get today. I'm waiting for this last one. There is a famous transporter that actually sank 250 miles off the Portugal coast. What was the name of it, Mike? Well, the name of that ship was called the Felicity Ace. That was the vehicle that
was
sank.
recently.
Yes,
Yeah.
most recently had 4,200 vehicles, and that's the picture of it right there. Insurance estimate was $155 million just in the auto cargo side of it.
Lamborghinis and Audis and
It
an
doesn't
electric
matter. It was
car caught fire.
$155 million.
In that vein, a
And
crew
they couldn't
member
put out.
In that vein, a crew member aboard a large cargo ship died as a fire engulfed the ship off the coast of the Netherlands. The Dutch newspaper, I can't pronounce that, reported that the ship was carrying 2,857 cars, of which 25 were electric vehicles. This is a story from this week in Automotive News. One of the EVs may have caught fire. Dutch news agency ANP reported, citing an unnamed Coast Guard official. Mercedes-Benz said about 350 of the vehicles on board the ship were Mercedes, adding that the company was in contact with the transport provider. The fire began on Tuesday night on the Panama-registered Fremantle Highway, which was en route from Germany to Egypt, forcing several crew members to jump overboard. The Coast Guard said the Fremantle, which had departed from the German port of Bremerhaven, had been towed out of the shipping lanes and could sink. Hasn't sunk yet. The 10-year-old ship measuring about 656 feet in length, can carry as many as 4,000 cars, according to data compiled by Bloomberg. The incident was the latest of several fires in recent times on car carriers. Earlier this month, 2 New Jersey firefighters were killed and 5 injured battling a blaze on a cargo ship carrying hundreds of vehicles. Fire destroyed thousands of luxury cars on the Felicity Ace, which you mentioned, which sank off the coast of Portugal's Azores Island in March of 2022.
Yep.
Yeah. So it seems as though up until this point, we haven't had many cargo ship fires with cars on it. But now all of a sudden, with the onslaught of electric cars,
You're hearing more about it.
yeah, and runaway battery fires, here we go.
Yep.
Well, I'd asked Jeff when I knew what he was doing if he had a picture of the Chevy Vega rail transit system. And what they did was they drove the Vegas up to the side of the vehicle, headlights in, and then these ramps lifted them up vertically. So the headlight, they tie them down, and the headlights were down and the taillights were up, and they loaded them into the side of the rail car because they could carry more of them that
Like
way.
putting books on a shelf.
Like, yeah. The weirdest thing I've ever seen in my life.
Hey, I want to remind you that the In Wheel Time Car Talk Show is available 24/7 through the iHeartRadio app. Just look for In Wheel Time Car Talk. We also video